Hey everyone, welcome back to my position that I had from one of my recent games. So this was the position I ended you with, the black side. So it's black to move, and in this game I decided to play a bit of a slow plan, and it kind of backfired a little bit. So one of the features that I noticed in this position was this f4 square looked really nice, and I thought to myself I would love to get something like a knight into this particular square, as it's a very nice square. Controls quite a lot of the of white's play. It's also potentially attacking this. Well, it's attacking the king side essentially. You may also notice this bishop on c8, and I thought to myself, well, maybe it would be really nice if I can get a knight here. I can start sacking maybe on h3, and maybe really start opening up white's position. It looks eerily similar to that of a King's Indian defence. So with this in mind, I decided to play the move knight to e7 and move along here and hopefully get to the square. The only problem is it is slightly too slow. What would have been a much better and much more dynamic way of playing in this position was the move g4. And something I totally missed in this position. The whole point is now white has to react to this threat in some way. He can't just move the knight away. Let's say he moved over here, because we just open up his king side now. This can't be good. You'd have to play a move like g3 to try and keep the king side closed, but he's just down a pawn, and I think we can safely say here that black is doing better here. So with that in mind, and also as well, this is just no good as well. If you capture back, bishop comes in, white's king side is totally busted. I think again we can say that black is doing very well. So what can he do instead? If he captures this off, this is also really good for us, as now we can capture with the knight. You'll see here I'm threatening to capture the bishop and win the bishop pair, but also I've got a very nice control of this file now. I'll be looking to maybe somehow get some pieces over there. Not sure how yet, but I'll be looking to maybe get some pieces over there and start creating some real nasty threats. It's quite interesting in this position actually. Black is in no rush to capture this bishop straight away. This bishop really hasn't got a whole lot of places it can go to, particularly after maybe knight b to d2. Now this bishop's got nowhere it can go to. So we're in no rush to capture it. We're doing absolutely fine. Yeah, we can just steadily improve the position. One idea, I'm just having a look on my engine, is even playing moves like h8, maybe move the rook to g8 and start creating some potential problems on this g file. Very, very interesting stuff. So going back, g4. So instead of g4, I did knight to e7, as I say, all a little bit too slow. And as you saw in the last part, I spoke a little bit about the Nimzowitsch quote, when your opponent attacks on the flanks, you should strike in the center. Well, let's see how white does that. So firstly his bishop came to c2, so now defending this e4 square and looking to push on d4. I decided to get my knights over to g6. Now looking to maybe jump into the square at some point, but now d4 comes a bit too quickly for me, faster than I anticipated. And I'm not too sure what to do here, but in actual fact, once again, this g4 idea rears its ugly head. I should have just played g4 here. The whole point is now, if h takes, I take with the knight again, and we've got the same idea. Almost it's a very similar position to what we just had. Very nice position for me to play. I've got a nice knight on this square. I can always win the bishop pair at some future point. I guess the only slight, well, not really a slight difference, is just where the pawn structure is at the minute. I think maybe white's got maybe a little bit more tension in the position than he did in the last one. But I think actually black is doing absolutely fine here. So yeah, so g4 once again, very playable. We should have just done that. We've been absolutely fine. I think what I was worried about with g4 was this idea here. But in actual fact, you know, I think I was just worried. You know, okay, you can capture this knight, and it's all looking a bit weird. There were some complications, potential complications of this after e takes, but in actual fact, black is doing absolutely fine here. I don't think he has any real worries. In fact, I quite like black's position now after this. He just wins a pawn, so I don't think white would would want to do that way. He'd probably first, well, after, let's say, after this, sorry, and after this, well, let's see. I mean, he could probably capture this way. Yeah, we just get into the same position as we did last time, don't we? So maybe, or bishop to be d4 maybe, but I don't know. For whatever reason, I didn't play it this way. And yeah, you can kind of see actually it doesn't look, there's no real dramas in my position after this. You know, in actual fact, the computer is recommending this way. And of course, after this, I've once again can jump in with the knight. This is not a threat anymore. You know, we're not worried about, you know, potentially the pawn capturing along there. This is absolutely fine. And once again, we've got a lovely, I think quite a nice position to play with, very playable for black. So, what happened in the game? So, bishop came back, I jumped here, d4, and I captured here. For whatever reason, I thought this was a good move. I think I was looking too worried about all the different plans and the complications, and I thought I'll try and get rid of some of the tension. The problem with this, though, is now this just gives white his ideal setup in the centre. He's got two central pawns versus my one central pawn, and he's going to really start squeezing my space. g4 once again is another move I could play here, and I think my position is still fine. Probably not as good as some of the previous positions that we looked at, as the knight can hop into h2, and I think he's doing okay. But I mean, even this h takes, g takes, g3. Okay, so maybe it's not so bad. But yeah, it's not as good, not as potent as it was slightly earlier. In the actual game, I wasn't too sure what to do. I'm already worrying about ideas of e5 coming in. After, you know, a couple captures, it's starting to look a little bit, you know, these knights here are starting to look a little bit shaky, and you know, he's got potential threats of doubling up my pawn structure as well, with the bishop capturing here. There's all kinds of problems for me. Also, this knight has now got a very nice way to develop. He doesn't have to come to this horrible d2 square. It can now develop to c3. It's looking really nice for white's position. I really like it. I think it's certainly starting to get really strong now. So I moved my queen to e7. I thought, well, let's just try and create some problems, try and slow down white's immediate thrust in the centre. Knight came to d5. I'm starting to get a little bit worried, you know, potentially of you know, him starting to expand a bit too much in the centre. So I play c6 here. So they're trying to restrict the space. Probably a slight inaccuracy, but I just thought I'll make my stance here. I'll just wait to see what he does, and you know, hopefully try and survive the position. c5 is another move as well. I think this is probably a little bit more accurate to try and strike back. If rook to e1 as an example. Here once again g4, I can play it. It's not a bad move at all. I mean, I could even think about just doing c takes d4 at this point. Oh no, maybe not actually. Knight takes here. No, it looks terrible. Looks absolutely terrible. So let's not do that. This is just looking too powerful for white. There's certainly a lot of central control here that he's got. So, okay, let's not do that. But c6, I thought this looked okay at the time. Now queen to b1, and already he is threatening ideas of e5, and maybe just taking off the knight, winning a pawn in the process. So, again, I had g4 here. g4 can be played, and it just saves me. It creates so much counterplay. Yeah, as I said, I just don't know what it was. You know, it was about maybe 4 or 5 times I missed this move. I think I was a bit too worried about what white could do rather than what I could do in this position, and it sort of cost me quite a bit. So instead, I made quite a bold decision. I jumped my knight into that square. And, well, it's not really all that good. You remember in some of the last positions I had a pawn still here, which was defending it, but now I've only got this one pawn on this square. So this is the clear problem after bishop captures. I've now got an isolated pawn on f4. I've also got doubled isolated pawns, and I've got a weakness on h6. So already I've got quite a lot of pawn weaknesses. So, even if white's attack isn't successful and I manage to defend it, I've always got these static problems for myself to deal with later on in the position. And you actually see that, I bring up these pawns now later in the position, it really starts to unravel very, very quickly. Okay, well that's going to finish it for this part. I'm going to finish off the rest of the game in the final part, so stay tuned for that. Once again guys, if you haven't subscribed already or clicked the notification bell, make sure you do. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next part.